Okay, we're going to look at adding, subtracting, and multiplying functions. We have two functions here, f at x, which is equal to an equation, and g at x, which is equal to an equation. We have quite a few questions. We're just going to focus on probably these two here, so really no need to write the other ones in. But if we get confused or we get stuck and we need a little extra practice, we can go through them. But we'll just focus on probably A and D in this case. So let's go back to them. I'm going to start with A. So A is telling us take f at x and add it to the function of g at x. Okay, what does that mean? Well, f at x is equal to this part here, and g at x is equal to this equation here. So we're going to replace those symbols with those equations that we have, and we'll set them up in sets of brackets. So I'll have equals in a set of brackets, x cubed plus 4x minus 2 plus, and g at x happen to be x squared minus 3. Okay. Now that I have them down, I'm going to write everything else in black. It's a little clearer this way. So now what we'll do is we're going to drop the brackets. Because it's a plus sign between them, when we drop the brackets, technically what you're doing is you are distributing a 1. Think of it as there's a 1 here, and we're multiplying positive 1 by both of these. But luckily, when you multiply by positive 1, there's no change to the value. So we can just drop all the brackets, and everything's going to be pretty much the same. We'll have x cubed plus 4x minus 2 plus x squared minus 3. Okay, so nothing's really changed there. The next step here is just collecting our like terms. X cubed is the only variable to that power, so that's the only term like that. 4x is a variable to the power of 1, and actually it's the only one like that too. Negative 2 is a constant, so we look for other constants. Think of them as values without variables, or if it makes it easier for you, think of them as variables to the power of 0. Do you know what any number to the power of 0 ends up being?
0?
Close.
Or 1?
Yes. So if x is 0 is 1, think of it as negative 2 times 1, which is equal to negative 2. So you could always think of a constant as a coefficient of a variable to the power of 0, but that can be a bit confusing. So don't worry about it. If you see the constant, just leave it as is. And then finally, x squared. That's its only term like that too. It's common when we write polynomials to order them from the power of the greatest to the least. So we have x cubed. We'll start with that. And then we have x squared. That'll be the next one we deal with. Then we have 4x. And then finally, we're just going to put our two constants together. Negative 2 minus 3 will give us negative 5. So f at x plus g at x is actually going to give you this function here. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is d. And this one's going to be a little trickier. This one says 2 multiplied by f at x plus 4 multiplied by g at x. So similar to what we had before, the only difference is we're going to have this value of 2. 2 is being multiplied by f at x, and we already know f at x. We'll replace it with the same one we had before as x cubed plus 4x minus 2. And then in this case, we have plus 4, and this time we're replacing g at x. And again, we know what it is. We'll write it in green as we had before, x squared minus 3. What's different this time around is that we have a number in front of both sets of brackets that we need to distribute. And when you distribute, that means you need to multiply that number by each of the numbers in the brackets. So the next line is going to kind of expand a lot of stuff. 2 times x cubed. Think of x cubed as having the coefficient of 1. Well, 2 times 1 just gives us 2. So we have 2x cubed. The variable doesn't change. Same idea here. The variable is going to stay the same, but this time 2 times positive 4 will give us positive 8. And then finally 2 times negative 2 will give us negative 4. In the next set of brackets we have 4. 4 times x squared, or 1x squared, will give us positive 4x squared. And then 4 times negative 3 will give us negative 12. We're going to collect our like terms, very similar to before. We have a very elite set of like terms. In fact, you'll notice there's really no difference. We just have the constants to put together. It's just that the terms themselves are a little bit different. So we still have 2x cubed only having one term, positive 4x squared plus 8x. I'm rewriting them in order of variable with the greatest power. And finally, negative 4 times, subtract negative 12 will give us negative 16. Okay, So that would be A and D. This one here, it's essentially just doing what we did. We're just multiplying the entire function by a value. And in this one, it's very similar to this, except that we rearrange the order and subtract them. And that subtracting will give us essentially a negative value here that will be distributed. And that will be your only major difference. After that, we're going to collect terms also. So very similar questions to practice.